Let's talk about the breaking point in prison. Get into it. You know, the breaking point of humanity inside of a prison, it starts with shocking violence, the isolation, and the dehumanization of human beings when they come to prison. But before we go into it, remember to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below on all the topics that we discuss. So, breaking points in prison usually come from the factors I just mentioned, the violence, the desensitivity of seeing the most extreme behaviors, the cruelty, the utter cruelty that you see in prison is an everyday. The challenge is to figure out how to still be a human but yet survive in prison. What I mean by that? Well, if you're surrounded by violence, you have to protect yourself. If you're surrounded by people that are out to get you or manipulate you, you have to develop a certain form of defensive mechanisms to combat that and not become a victim. The biggest hurdle to navigate in prison is not become a victim yourself. So it's a balancing act of being respectful, staying to yourself, but also protecting yourself. One of the biggest issues that happen with people that go into prison is they fall into depression. They feel like that their lives are over and nobody cares, even though the people have loved ones on the outside that provide them with some financial support. People have communication with outside, family members, friends, whatever. They still get depressed knowing that you're in a purgatory, kind of a suspended animation, so to speak, where life outside is going on. Birthdays are happening, people's getting married, people pass away. All the things in life are going on, but you're suspended. It's kind of stuck in time. Even though the days go by, it seems like your world is just stopped. Because in prison, it's routine every day. It can be mind-numbingly boring to the point where if you spend years in incarceration, you get to the point where you just don't have any feelings for anything anymore. You're afraid to experience happiness. You're afraid to get too sad because you get so depressed and dark. It's a dark, dark world, and there's very few moments of joy. And the moments of joy you get, you have to temper them because at any moment that could switch. So, a lot of guys that come to prison, they get in trouble, and then they get put in a hole, and then that creates even a deeper sense of desperation, a deeper sense of darkness, and you go to a very, very dark place to where you get scarily evil and you get scarily dark about how you think, how you view the world, how you see everything in life, and you see it as a dark, dark place of hell on earth. And I've seen guys, this guy, his name is John. John went into isolation or the hole, some place called it the shoe, whatever. It's lockup. And he went into lockup as a pretty sane person, pretty, has mental together, but he kept doing things to get more time added to him in the hole, and he ended up doing 2 or 3 years in the hole, and he went crazy. And what happened was the first initial several months he did okay, and then he started to hear voices, and he started to not be able to hold it together mentally. Because I'm telling you, you go to prison, you gotta be mentally tough, and you can't be weak. And if you become weak, then you won't make it out. So John, through the first 3 months of his whole time, he was fine. But going into the fourth month, the fifth month, the sixth month, he started to lose all sense of reality. He started to see things, hear things. He quit eating for a long period of time, where they had to take him out to medical hospital to put him on some intravenous uh, fluids and things to get him back. They almost lost him a couple of times because he went on a hunger strike. And if you go on a hunger strike, there's a lot of legal technicalities to that, to where they have to, at some point, make a decision to forcibly give them medical treatment to keep them alive. So he went through that process, and he started to eat again, and he lost about 50 pounds. So he went from like 200 some pounds down to 150. Uh, his skin became discolored. He was a white guy. His skin became almost a grayish looking color. He was dehydrated. He was um, got to the point where he wouldn't speak. So, whenever the officers come around to, for count, for chow, for, the nurse comes by to check on him, he wouldn't speak verbally. He wouldn't even acknowledge they were there. He would just sit on his bunk and look straight ahead, wouldn't acknowledge anything. And it got to the point where he quit speaking altogether. And I think the psychosis and the whatever term you want to use got to him to the point where he lost his mind. And what do you do with a person who loses it like that? You have to figure out, and the big debate in the United States and the world is solitary confinement cruel and unusual punishment? Because so many people that have done horrible things are in solitary confinement, and at some point, people go crazy and they lose their minds. And I know people say, well, they did the crime, so they should be able to, they got to do the time, and fuck them, they don't matter. But they do. They're somebody. So somebody's son, daughter. I mean, son. Yeah, could be daughter. Father. There's somebody to somebody. So it's a very interesting dynamic of what do you do, how do you treat these people, and if they do go crazy, what do you do with them? Because a lot of times people can go over the edge where they never come back. A lot of people that do drugs, meth or some type of drug that alters their brain, and they're never the same again. This happens to a lot of people come in prison. They get to the point where their minds are harmed and they're destroyed to where they're not the same anymore. So what is the answer? I don't know the answer. Do you? And if you know the answer, drop a comment down below and we'll discuss. But reflecting on that, how do we as a society deal with the most horrible people, or in some cases people who've done horrible things, protect society, protect other inmates, and keep from becoming barbaric or non-civilized ourselves? Because you can get to the point where we're doing such cruel things to people that we feel is less than them, then we become what we complain about. So are we that society? Are we those type of people that don't care and don't believe in people having redemption and second chances? I don't know. I believe everybody to some degree, should have and can have a second chance. Just because somebody comes to prison doesn't mean they're the most horrible person in the world. Because there's a lot of people walking in society right now and maybe listening to me that have done horrible things, you just haven't got caught. So before you judge, you should sit back and think about, what are we doing to the people that are less than us, or people that we perceive that are less than us, and how do we make it better? But as always, like, share, and subscribe, and stay on the other side.